All right, so today I would like to continue with our ongoing reading of the meta multi sci-fi comma verse narrative, originally titled "In the Grip of Q-MAGAnon," that we have been interpreting and reading for the last few days or week or a couple of weeks. And this will be the 11th installment of that series. And what we're looking at is, once again, the rationale for doing a reading of this meta multi sci-fi comma-verse narrative and or story that takes place within the environment of this particular meta multi sci-fi comma-verse, and as I was saying, the rationale is to justify the fact that that this story and the elements within this story and the allegory that it the allegorical light, I guess we could say, that it sheds on our current political situation and the ongoing expanse of fascism in the United States of America, in fact, does not violate a policy on harmful conspiracy theories precisely because it is a criticism, satire that addresses harmful conspiracy theories and the events that they lead to and the aftermath of those events and the harmful outcome of those events upon humans' lives, people's lives in the United States of America and beyond, and upon democracy as an institution, right, and of our way of life and of the principles that purportedly we believe in, but we seem to believe in less and less and less as our nation becomes more authoritarian, totalitarian, and fascist. And so, yes, this begins as a defense of the storyline and of the elements that constitute that storyline, and it documents what various elements in the telling or retelling in comic sci-fi form of the events leading up to January 6th itself, and the events that follow. That having been said, let's proceed to the next image in the presented as part of the plot of this particular storyline, and see where we can go from there. All right, so this is this familiar face. Not sure why so many of these folks have such large ears, but maybe it's just a characteristic of this particular branch of hominids that I don't know, seems so intent upon maintaining a certain amount of power over the rest of us hominids. And I'm not really sure why. This is Josh Hawley is his name, or is it Howley? I'm not sure. I like to refer to him as Howley, but that may be a mispronunciation. And in all fairness and honesty, the mispronunciation, may be, I won't, say that it is, but it may be unconsciously or subconsciously intentional. That is, have a meaning, as in, a howler, that expression, a howler. Let's look it up in case people don't know the particular use of this word. A howler is an informal British English term that refers to a foolish mistake, especially in what someone says or writes. For example, I called her by the name of his first wife, which was a bit of a howler. So for a contracting fee through Theta, a howler could be, I'll just look at this. Okay, so this History Lessons 2 refers to Fred Hampton. I suppose if I had referred to Fred Hampton as Fred Trump, that would have been a howler. Or if I would have referred to the author of It Can't Happen Here as C.S. Lewis instead of Sinclair Lewis, that would have been a howler. Or, I don't know, perhaps one of the Pences, referring to their dedication to the principles of democracy would seem like a howler. Or, when Fritz Lang was asked by the German Nazi government to stay in Germany, and, well, not asked, but, when he was summoned, right, to create a propaganda film for the Nazi government, Fritz Lang, that is, based on their misinterpretation of what he was trying to do in the early film Metropolis, I guess, which is referenced in that one of the visual sets of visual imagery that was that put up for the Yeager and Evans tune 2525. That misreading of Metropolis on the part of the Nazis, and their belief that that Lang would be open, right, to create propagandist films for the German government as his wife or former wife, Leni Riefenstahl, was eager to make such films. He must have interpreted their understanding and their interpretation of Metropolis as something of a hermeneutic howler, we could say, right? So perhaps, in our mispronunciation of Josh Howley's name, something like that is going on in our unconscious that or subconscious that we're not aware of. Although, in this instant, I still have that cold, so I'm going to be doing a little bit of coughing throughout this. In this instant of bringing that to light, we could say that we're bringing that information lurking in our unconscious or pre-conscious understanding of Josh's name. You can see it's getting ready for a howl there. To consciousness and to light. I suppose we're doing something similar, like in this. It seems that we misremembered his name in this particular slide and referred to him as Senator Crowley, as in Aleister Crowley, and that must have been unconscious, as well, and Crowley, Crowley, like, of course, reminds us of Aleister Crowley, but also of the character in Neil Gaiman's Good Omens, and if you haven't seen the series on, it's on one of those, Netflix or Hulu or Peacock or whatever it is, channels. I'm not sure which one, but investigate and find out. It's really quite good, and I'm referring, of course, to the first one, the Good Omens, that basically rewrites and retells the story of John of Patmos' narrative in the book that's called Revelations, or the Apocalypse, right? That just means revelation or the revealing in Greek, and the serpent, that tempts the serpent who tempts Adam and Eve, and is a big part of the story, and evolves and has a relationship with one of the angelic characters, but is in fact himself a demon. He begins the story with the name Crawley, as in the serpent that crawls on the ground, and then eventually, as a kind of pun, changes his name to Crowley, I guess to disguise his origins. But that, of course, references the Aleister Crowley, the sort of crazy, British satanic magic guy, and again, both reference, maybe operating here in an attempt to produce some kind of humor or something like that. Certainly wasn't our intention to refer to those things, but maybe unconsciously, somehow we did. Senator Crowley demonstrates exactly how much he knows about the Constitution and election law in the United States of America. And of course, the election was being held hostage, and they wanted to shut. I don't know what he's eating here. It looks like lettuce coming out of his mouth, spilling onto the RIP GOP gravestone here. Which other than the fact that the centerpiece of the RIP, which are simultaneously RIP and GOP headstone, the centerpiece there is also forms both a theta and a phi, which is part of our name, and without including the prepositions that constitute the grammar of our name. But and it looks something like a jack-o'-lantern, or something like a jack-o'-lantern, something like a jack-o'-lantern, or something like a jack-o'-lantern. It looks like a jack-o'-lantern, or it looks like something like a jack-o'-lantern, maybe we should say. And then there's something down here. I'm not sure what it was at one time, but I like the fragmentary character of it and the indeterminacy. And I guess all good headstones go the way of fragmentation and indeterminacy at some point, because of the nature of our universe that involves, one of the physical principles of our universe is that it involves processes of decay and disintegration, and all of these processes that reduce order, to reduce order to I don't want to say chaos, but let's just say reduce order, and through processes of dissipation and destruction, are generally referred to as entropy, right? And so there's a certain amount of entropy, constituted in this indeterminate textuality down here, and whatever it is that Josh Crowley is eating, that's coming out of his mouth and spilling onto the RIP GOP headstone, doesn't seem to get in his way from speaking and demonstrating that he doesn't really know much about the Constitution and election law in the United States of America. And as I began to say, or perhaps I said, but I believe I only began to say, as with many of these representatives and some Republican senators, he essentially wanted to hold the government hostage, right, until the results of the election were challenged or undermined or turned in the favor of the conspiracy theories that constituted most of constituted a lot of brainwashing on the part of this particular segment of Q-MAGAnon. And so he says, I'm telling you, I won't sign that economic relief bill. And this is, of course, related to relief, right, that ordinary citizens of the United States received because of the devastation of the COVID-19 virus that put many people out of work and put many people into the hospital and required, on the part of these individuals, a certain amount of Social Security, which most of us have been paying into our entire lives, right? So it's not like we're really stealing anything. It's just that we're receiving a tiny fraction back of what we already put into these safeguards, on that exist in our particular nation, that ensure the health and prosperity of its constituents, and one of those safeguards is Social Security. And so there were a lot of relief bills that folks like this, right, who now, right, are very happy that Trump is back in, and the House, and well, not the House yet, I guess. I prematurely said the House, went to the fascist right as well as the Senate and the executive branch, the presidential and vice presidential offices, and the executive administration, and of course the Supreme Court, has been part of the political association of Q-MAGAnon for some time as well. So all three branches of government, essentially, but that is a little bit premature because the House hasn't been taken yet, so we'll see. But I imagine that this landslide fascist victory that the fascists are so proud to gloat about now. I mean, well, it's amusing because there's so much gloating being done in the alt-right fascist press, the Rupertian Murdochians, or whatever they are, and the rest of them, that one wonders how they're going to recover from this in a few months, when Trump actually takes office and everything kind of goes down the tubes, economically and otherwise, just as it did in his first term. I mean, and if anyone wants to kid themselves and they pretend like they don't know, like what a devastating number Trump did on the economy, that's up to them, to pretend that they have absolutely no memory whatsoever. But for the rest of us, it's just going to be amusing to see, after all this gloating, what the justification is once Trump's tariffs, tear apart the economy and the rest of it, does its number as well. Is there anything else that we need to say about this? Other than, I think it's pretty obvious, like just based on the look on this guy's face, why the Guardians of the Galaxy never considered him as a possible hero. I don't think there's anything else. Haven't really looked carefully at the image, but I don't think there's a lot going on. Let's proceed on a little bit. And I'm going to be coughing throughout because, like I said, I still have some of the effects of this virus. Oh, so it's Michael Flynn once again, and the colors that constitute, Michael Flynn's speech bubble, here are, intended to represent the Russian flag, and he's talking to Putin on the phone. Incite violent thuggery. Like, part of the violent thuggery is, of course, the constant, right? The constant incitation, of crowd, the MAGA crowd that Michael Flynn, used to do, that resulted in the chants of lock her up, in relationship to Hillary Clinton, like who was the target of the fascist right's, initial, misogynist thuggery and stochastic violence. We're learning, as we proceed, into the evolution. Do we want to call it evolution or de-evolution of the MAGA mind, and do we even want to call it a mind? But the MAGA limbic system, I guess, is probably a better term than mind. Just, how deep that misogynist cavern goes, and how ready some of these men, we've been working with a piece that asks this question, what is a man? And man in that instance can be interpreted in multiple ways. What is a human being? But what is a man? Where does man come from? But also, what is masculinity? What does it mean to be a man? And really, the answer for this pair of individuals is pretty simple. It just means we hate women. We think that we're superior to others. We have some imaginary self-deluded idea that we're alpha and have the right to inflict pain and suffering on those who we perceive as our enemies, because we're basically fearful, and that's where our bullying comes from, and we're threatened as men, and the very threat becomes our definition of manhood, right? So what we're threatened by most, our response to that, the cruelty of our response to what we're threatened by as men, is the source of our manhood, right? It makes a lot of sense. So that's where the violence and the aggression and the lizard mind and everything is about. But it begins, right, from this position of threat and fear, as in the expression, fear is the mother of violence. And doesn't early Genesis have a song, Mother of Violence? I believe so. We'll have to do something about that, and maybe even by some more prog rock, early Genesis, and do something on that. But Mother, it's interesting because there once was a time when Germany always had the fatherland, right? Because the Germans knew that they were fascists. The Russians had the motherland, and Mother Russia, was the allegorical figuration of the Russian people. I'm sure that doesn't suit Putin at all in his fragile masculine self, in which, you know, even the telephone that he holds, you know, kind of becomes like, one can't like see Putin holding the telephone without thinking about him about the telephone as a phallic symbol, right? Michael Flynn, you know, his doesn't look so much like a phallic symbol, but then he's not the ultra hetero, boss man, power guy like Putin is, right? He's like subservient to Putin in the same way that Trump is more or less, subservient to Putin. And here, he's, being the example of the good son, or the good little boy, and saying, yes, sir, I'm right on it, incite violent thuggery and threaten martial law to undermine democracy in my own country, as an agent of Russia. Yes, sir, I'm right on it. And so much wanting the approval. These men, these authoritarian, fascist men that admire Trump and hate women. So much want, the approval of the adoring father, even though he's never going to give it to them, right? Like, in what universe did Trump ever like give, another man, true respect, other than the ones that he feels subservient to? That's why he really likes this guy so much, because he's afraid of him. And the only sadly, like the only male individuals who Trump can like are individuals that, play this role of the fascist father. And the rest, the ones that actually submit to him, these kind of folks, like, are always, disparaged, and eventually they'll, fall under his the gaze of his anger, frustration, and tyrannical, rage, right? All right, so I think, that's pretty much all that we're saying. I mean, I guess I could make a comment about the fact that, Putin doesn't even have to say anything. He's already, just getting the approval of Michael Flynn. But let's see what else we got. All right. Unfortunately, okay, so I can't remember this guy's name, but he was one of those, election conspiracy theorists who, it's just like full of rage and insisting, that the election was being rigged even before the election, I believe. And and this when I say Mama, like, which is a parody of MAGA, you say don't vote, and make America MAGA again, lock us up, same chant that we had in the earlier Michael Flynn, I believe it was, frame. Curiously crazier than James Tweaky Tweeter, and then that's got a copyright at TM. I don't know why it's got 2 commas, I can't remember. Woods, but bizarrely beneficial to our subsequent sanity and more multi-purpose than a double-headed screwdriver. Like, that's a reference to how crazy this guy is. Why he doesn't have the stage 77 MAGA in his fisheye, I have no idea. But anyway, this at this rally, this individual, not like, I can't remember his name at all, and what role he had in I believe he was from the South, but and perhaps Georgia, perhaps a Georgia official, because that's where some of this was contended. But he actually stated at one of these rallies, that people shouldn't vote because it was just going to be a rigged election anyway, which is like pretty amazing. And that's why he's curiously crazier than James Tweaky Tweeter Woods, but bizarrely beneficial to our subsequent sanity, meaning those individuals who aren't part of the Q-MAGAnon insanity, and more multi-purpose than a double-headed screwdriver. Yeah, so obviously not too many individuals followed that advice because Trump received just as many votes in the 2020 election as he did in the 2024 election. So unfortunately, the truth of the matter of the 2024 election is that those individuals who voted for Biden in 2020 just didn't show up to vote for Kamala Harris. Trump had the same amount, right? He had the same amount of popular votes and the same amount of not the same amount of electoral college votes. Sorry, that's a misstatement. Same amount of popular votes, and then of course, like, he took the electoral college by storm because what? People failed to show up to vote for Kamala Harris. The same people that voted for Joe Biden. Why is that? It's not that we have a racist and misogynist country, is it? That couldn't be it. No, that's not it. It's just what? People just forgot what voting day was? Interesting. No, I don't think so. So, the Americans, they made their choice. They didn't show up. They didn't bother to show up. And this is the kind of person that we have right here. And you can't see it in his eyes, and you can't see it in the way that he holds his mouth. Then honestly, there's just something wrong with you, because these people are not good. Why people didn't show up to vote, I have no idea. But that's why Harris and Walz lost the election. Not because of these crazy people. They were crazy before. Did you really expect any of these people that voted for Trump in 2020 to change their minds? Look at them. I mean, here they are. Okay, so Jim Jordan is asking, what's this guy's name? Mark Rubio. Jim Jordan is asking, is that his name? Mark Rubio? Let's look up. No, that's not Mark Rubio. What's this guy's name? This is the guy that. This is the sycophant, and why can't I remember his name? The Trumpist sycophant. Let's see if we put that in. See if I can find his name from this. Oh, no, it's Washington Post again. We're not signed in. I don't see anything here. Let me try a different search. A list. I'm sure many of our viewers will remember this gentleman's name. A list of, but I just can't. So I'm just gonna see if I can find a list of Trump sycophants. All the ex-president's sycophants. There's Ben Shapiro. Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, Tim Scott, Nikki Haley, Netanyahu, Lindsey Graham. It's not really a list, no. Mike Pence. Let's rating the sycophants. This got to have some kind of a list. Jeff Sessions, Mike Pence, Rick Perry, Elaine Chao, Reince Priebus, Sonny Perdue, Tom Price. Similar characters in this list. In the house of a list of Trump sycophants in the House of Representatives. Tommy Tuberville, we looked at him. These are all the Trumpies, all the Trump sycophants. Tommy Tuberville, Barry Moore, Roy Moore. Oh, isn't he the pedophile, Roy Moore? I think so. A lot of these guys, a lot of the Republicans are pedophiles. Sarah Palin, obviously, la 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 la. Kevin McCarthy. Remember him? The insider shark self-feeding fest removed him. Lauren Boebert, crazy lady. I guess that's another one of the pedophiles. Looks like a pedophile. Laura Loomer, she's another conspiracy theorist. A lot of sycophants. Jim Jordan. He's the one that's talking to the guy that we're looking for. We didn't see him, or we missed him. There's more grifters and sycophants. Stephen Miller. Why can't I remember this guy's name? All right, well, since something in my unconscious and or subconscious is causing me to fail to remember this member of the House of Representatives from California, I believe, his name, we're going to have to just list the senators and members of the House who objected to enforcing the Constitution and following the rule of law and performing those duties necessary on January 6th, and who favored undermining the results of the election, following the mandate of the conspiracy theory, which was that Biden somehow stole the election. So if there were this many Democrats in office, claiming that Trump lost the 2024 election, then we would have something equivalent. And it's just the only reason that I'm reading this list in its entirety of individuals who violated the Constitution and refused in the Republican Party and refused to certify the 2020 election is just simply because I can't remember this one guy's name who's in that image next to Jim Jordan. You recall Jim Jordan is saying, what is he saying? Oh, let's save that for later. But anyway, let's save for later. But this is Jim Jordan, and this is this guy, and I can't remember his name. And these are some other members of the House and Senate that refused to certify the results of the election, and in order to provide for a peaceful transference of power. So in our humble opinion, all of the individuals who were derelict in performing the duties that they were assigned as part of their official capacity in office, and therefore violated the Constitution. And wait a minute, just by number, can we recall how many Democrats performed similar violations of the Constitution in refuting and claiming that and promoting conspiracy theories involving Trump's loss in 2024? Well, so far, I think it's 0, isn't it? I believe there are 147 on this list. Like I said, the only reason that we're reading this in its entirety is we're looking for the name of that. I'll see if I can read these, very quickly so that we can move on to some of the other details. Ted Cruz, Josh Haley, Cindy Hyde-Smith, Cynthia Loomis, John Kennedy, Roger Marshall, Rick Scott, Tommy Tuberville, Robert Alderholt, Rick Allen, Jody Arrington, Brian Babin, Jim Baird, Jim Banks, Cliff Bentz, Jack Bergman, Stephanie Bice, Andy Biggs, Dan Bishop, Lauren Boebert. Wow, there's a lot of Constitution violating Republicans that believe in conspiracy theories, isn't there? Mike Bost, Mo Brooks, Ted Budd, Tim Burchett, Michael Burgess, Ken Calvert, Kamek, Jerry Carl, Buddy Carter, John Carter, Madison Catherine, Steve Chabot, Ben Klein, Michael Cloud, Andrew Clyde, Tom Cole, Rick Crawford, Warren Davidson, Scott Desjarres, Mario Diaz-Balart, Byron Donalds, Jeff Duncan, Neil Dunn, Ron Estes, Pat Fallon, Michelle Fischbach, Scott Fitzgerald, that's probably not F. Scott Fitzgerald, just regular Scott Fitzgerald, Chuck Fleischman, Virginia Fox, Scott Franklin, Russ Fulcher, Matt Gates, Mike Garcia, Bob Gibbs, Carlos Jimenez, Louis Gomert, Bob Good, Lance Gooden, Paul Gossard, Garrett Graves, Sam Graves, probably all the Graves, Mark Green, Marjorie Green, Morgan Griffith, Michael Guest, Jim Hagedorn, Andy Harris, Diana Harshbarger, Vicky Hartzler, Kevin Hearn, Yvette Harrell, Jody Heiss, Clay Higgins, Richard Hudson, Daryl Issa, Ronnie Jackson, Chris Jacobs, Mike Johnson, Bill Johnson, Jim Jordan, John Joyce, Fred Keller, Trent Kelly, Mike Kelly, David Kustov, Doug Lamalfa, Doug Lamborn, Jacob LaTurner, Debbie Lesko, Billy Long, Barry Loudermilk, Frank Lucas, probably no relationship to George Lucas, but I'm not entirely certain, Blaine Luetkemeyer, Nicole Maliot, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that at all, Maliot Takis, I'm sorry, my dyslexia is really making a heyday out of this. Tracy Mann, Brian Mast, Kevin McCarthy, lost him, didn't we? Lisa McLean, Daniel Moiser, Mary Miller, Carol Miller, Alex Mooney, Barry Moore, Mark Wayne Mullen, Gregory Murphy, Troy Nels, Ralph Norman, there he is, Devin Nunez. There he is. Okay, well, we've gotten so close to finishing. Let's just go ahead and like wrap it up with the rest of the names, because I don't want to privilege these folks over the rest of the people. Devin Nunez. Hopefully we'll remember that name when we're done reciting the rest of the names. Jay Obernolte, Burgess Owens, Stephen Palazzo. It takes a long time to name all of these people who violated the Constitution in the Republican Party, doesn't it? Stephen Palazzo, Gary Palmer, Greg Pence, probably no relationship to Mike Pence, but who knows? Scott Perry, August Fluger, Bill Posey, and Guy Reschenthaler, Tim Rice, Mike Rogers, Hal Rogers, John Rose, Matt Rosendale, David Reuser, John Rutherford, Steve Scalise, David Schweikert, Pete Sessions, Jason Smith, Adrian Smith, Lloyd Schmucker, Elise Stefanix, Greg Stoib, Chris Stewart, Glenn Thompson, Tom Tiffany, William Timmons, Jefferson Van Drew, Beth Van Doyen, Tim Wahlberg, Jackie Wallersky, Randy Weber, Daniel Webster. Seriously? His name is Daniel Webster? Daniel Webster, Roger Williams, Joe Wilson, Rob Whitman, Ron Wright, and Lee Zeldin. Okay, so Devin Nunez. Let's try not to forget that name. Let's go ahead and click on Devin Nunez and see what we're gonna. Oh gosh, like that's interesting. So there just happened to be a wiki site that was already open to Devin Nunez's page. I should have just started with that, and it would have been easier to remember his name. But anyway, political positions. There's a lot of stuff on this guy on the wiki site. But former Trump campaign CEO and chief strategist, as well as longtime fascist, Steve Bannon has called Nunez Trump's second strongest ally in Congress. Los Angeles Times described him as a simpering sycophant. No, just kidding. As one of Trump's most ardent and outlandish defenders in Congress, who parroted the president's conspiracy theories and used his position to try to undermine the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. Sure, he's already trying to undermine one investigation when he was supporting this conspiracy theory about how Biden didn't win the presidential campaign, right? During the presidency of Donald Trump, Nunez voted in line with the president's stated position 96.2% of the time. Is that a good little baby boy or what? Is that the good son, that the good little wannabe, fascist son that seeking daddy's approval? This guy, I tell you, if Chad Wolf wasn't the world's oldest living baby boy, Devin Nunez would have made a good, runner-up. 96.2% of the time. As of December 2021, Nunez had voted in line with Joe Biden's stated position 11% of the time. That's just a position about factual matters, right? Okay. And then, you can look up more about Devin Nunez. Let's go back to the thing. Oh, wow, that's interesting. So they were having the same Jim Jordan. It just isn't that, it's almost like unconscious or subconscious metapoetic irony at work here. Just like I couldn't remember Devin Nunez's name, Jim Jordan is asking, what was our first president's last name again? And Devin Nunez's response, Donald, I think, but you should probably check with the Library of Legislature. I believe that he's referring to the Library of Congress, but I think some aphasia may be going on, and legislature is one of those words that's replacing Congress in this particular utterance. That was long. It took us a while to get through that. There's a lot of forgetting that we do, right, over the course of 4 years. So, even though, you know, we did forget Devin Nunes' name, it was probably useful for us to recite all of those names of all of those individuals who, you know, failed to perform their duties of office and recognize the lawful results of the 2020 election. I believe it was 147, but that number may be off. How many was it again? How many Democrats was it again in 2016 that did something like that, violated their constitutional duties? Oh yeah, it was 0. And then how many Democrats will it probably be this year? 0. So kind of like a constitutional imbalance in the parties a little bit, right? Those who play by the rules versus those who don't. An overwhelming majority of particularly Republicans in the House, utterly and astonishingly, you know, willing to fail to play by the rules. And if you don't play by the rules in the game of democratic election, do you really have a democracy? Isn't playing by the rules and abiding by the people's decision part of what believing in democracy is all about? And if you can't do that, and but you still want to compete in the election, isn't there something wrong with you if you go to a game and almost up front, you know, you say, like, we're going to cheat. We're going to do everything that we can to cheat. And if we cheat, it's okay. But if you cheat, it's not okay. But we still want to play this game. So what I'm pointing out, I guess, is it's important to remember, whether you can remember the names of these players or not, but the vast majority of these individuals do not play by the rules and do not believe in the principles of democracy. Okay? And that was only 4 years ago. So anybody who's forgotten this in the course of 4 years and failed to show up and vote the way that they did for Joe Biden, you know, I don't understand that. I don't understand that, because this is what's at stake right here. What was the name of our first president's last name again? What was the name? What was the first president's last name again? So what was the first president's last name? There's a chiasm here, right? What was the first president's last name again? And the chiasm, the response on the part of Devin Nunes, whose name we could not remember, is Donald, I think. The first of the last and the last of the first, I guess. But you should probably check with the Library of Legislature. Library of Congress keeps a lot of records. Oh, this is a big one. This is a different cue, but there's a lot going on here, and he belongs to, you know, yet another universe that enters into the meta-multi sci-fi comiverse that this story takes place in, and requires a bit of elaboration. We will probably need quite a bit of time to go over this image, and you know, having spent so much time refreshing our memory or enlightening our consciousness, consciousness, you know, right, with the depths of our unconsciousness, whichever it might have been, our you know, either unconscious forgetting or intentional forgetting of Devin Nunes' names. We wasted a lot of time. I don't know if it was really wasted, because it does, you know, it is important for our understanding of what happened in 2020 and why it happened and what conspiracy theories brought it on and who supported it, and how overwhelming the support was on the part of Republicans in the House, and how you know, we continue to act as if all of this unconstitutional behavior is in fact, you know, somehow the new normal, which it is certainly not. And he, this one, he seems to be wearing as a kind of insignia, the way that Superman wears the S. But it asks yet another question about memory, doesn't it? Does anyone remember the nonlinear Luther B list? And we'll save the rest of our reading of this for I guess installment number 12. It will be of In the Grip of ThermostatAnon.